this is very clearly a bad sentence. Why does this go wrong? So one issue is that this T won't be able to enter into a relationship with this directly because we have a CP and CPs are phases. So you cannot, this cannot probe into the CP. So that's the primary explanation. There's a further issue which is which I've played with. In Hindi, sometimes the key is optional, right? So when the key is optional, well, one thing one could say is, yes, it's over, you don't pronounce it, but it's always there, right? So that's one thing you could say. But even suppose, even if it's not there, right, and then in that case you could assume that maybe you just have a finite clause. The question is, can this guy, so let's think about it in two steps. This guy already has the features from the embedded clause, right? So these features are already there. From Mona, they're already here. What we want to also make sure is that this should not be able to pick up features directly from this. So the way I implemented this here was that that there was no agreement that you could not pick up features from another head. This had to actually enter into a relationship with an actual DP. So this is just some technicality. I think actually for most purposes, just the fact that the features are on T and there is a C layer in between is going to be enough for blocking long distance agreement. Yeah. So that takes care of the fact that you can never get long distance agreement out of finite clauses, okay? Which is the fairly reasonable claim that finite clauses are strong phases, and the agreement features are on T, they're not on C, okay? So from above, when you look, you only see the edge of the CP, and so you have access to something that would be in spec CP, you have access to something in C, but nothing lower than that. Yeah. One thing there is a question that arises here, but I'll bring it up, which is that what if you moved something to the edge of CP? What if you moved an argument there? Would it become visible for the purposes of agreement? It doesn't. I mean, that's what we know is that it doesn't. But it actually also connects with something else that I haven't said, but which is important to keep in mind. So we are doing structural treatments of agreement. Essentially, most structural treatments of agreement have one thing that they need to keep in mind, and that scrambling. As far as we know, scrambling does not affect agreement. So it's not the case that you rearrange the word order and suddenly the agreement changes, right? Remember the algorithm that I'm using or the algorithm that Bobolik sets up. In both of these cases, we say agree with the highest argument, which is accessible and so on. But if it's the highest argument, then why can't you use scrambling or something else to change what is highest? So what we have to say is that this agreement, all of the agreement stuff that we're talking about, happens before you do any of these scrambling operations. That's the best we can do. So that the timing explanation. But it's a little bit tricky because this really tells us that a lot of the that the operations are ordered in a very particular way, and this is not always obvious. Okay. So let's see if these, yeah, so this is our directionality fact, right? Mona कुत्तों को देखनी चाहती थी. This is bad, and how do we derive it? So the way we derive it within the system, I think this falls out very naturally. So in the long distance agreement case, you have T up here, inf, and then dp. So then this T probes down, picks up the features of the dp, gives it to the inf, and they all have features. Okay. Now, downward agreement is this situation. You have T and dp, and there's the inf downstairs which does not have features. Okay. Now this is unattested for very, very good reason, right? So there's a bunch of things. One is inf is not a probe, but suppose even if it was, let's assume it is actually a probe. Probes, in the version of agree that we're playing it, probes probe down, right? So there's nothing for it to see. There's no way that this guy can see this. Okay? So that's one reason. The other, so inf can't do, even if inf was a probe, it would not be able to see this. But from the other direction, right? Why can't T give features to inf? Why can't T give its features that it gets from this dp to inf? Yes. So because T does not have, T is not inf's friend. T does not have any particular love for inf saying, hey, I have some features, please take them. It's just that it gives features to inf if inf is on the way. But inf is not on the way. So this is an important fact about probing. Probing does not go any further than it needs to. So once once T gets its features, it just stops. So that's why you never get here. That's all there is to the downward agreement. Parasitic agreement, well, I've already told you, I mean, parasitic agreement will basically, I mean, I handle parasitic agreement in a way, it's a stipulation, but basically by saying that inf in Hindi is not a probe. That inf is a head with features, but it does not do probing itself. So that is the point at which that's how parasitic stuff is encoded. Now we come to
Is it technically possible for your system to have participle connect with the infinitive? Find because participle is a probe.
Yes.
So they will have features same. T will have its own independent.
Well, that is possible, except that in. Okay, so let me just think about this. So I think the system as such would have no problem with this. So this is a situation. So right now, what happens is the way things are rigged. The participle and the tense always find exactly the same thing. Okay. But imagine a situation where the participle is a probe and T is a probe, but the way we set things up is that the participial probe is lower than the T probe, and so that, I mean, it is lower, but like it is lower in such a way that the T probe finds a